Hey guys, Mike here from Lunch Money Comics. Earlier this year, I got a second copy of my favorite book of all time, Giant Size X-Men #1. And when I got that book, I said to help pay for it, I had to sell my older copy. I was reluctant to do this because this was my childhood grail. This was the first big book I ever got. I had a lot of sentimental value attached to it, but I knew I had to part with it. And a ton of people reached out to me wanting this book, but one of those people was a published comic book artist out here in Massachusetts who wanted to trade for it. Something, again, I was reluctant to do. But what he offered me was not only something more special than the original book, but definitely more sentimental. So here's the story of what I traded that book for, and I got a lot. But I need to tell this story fast because I have a special guest due down here any moment, and I'm really excited for you to meet him. So check out the video, guys. I'll see you back here in a minute. You don't want to miss this one. All right, guys, I need to tell this story as quick as possible. Like I said, earlier this year, I got a second copy of Giant Size X-Men #1 at a comic show. It was a beautiful raw copy. I got it for about $1,500 cash and trade, and it was about a 7.0 is what the seller said. And this was supposed to replace my older original copy, a graded 2.5, like I said, a very sentimental book to me. And, originally I said I'd have to sell that book, and I made a whole video on it. And a lot of people contacted me, mostly wanting to trade for it, something I was kind of reluctant to do. But even after that video, the more I started looking at both these books side by side, I like the idea of owning a graded and a raw copy. Like I said, it's my favorite book of all time, but I thought it made sense to reverse the roles. I would grade the brand new shiny one, and the older one, I would crack, clean, and press it, mostly because it had never been pressed before. You could look at it right in the slab. It was all wavy and in bad shape, and as I'll tell you in a second, it was even worse than I thought it was. So that was my plan. I kind of resolved, okay, I'm going to keep both books. But one of the people that contacted me was a local comic book artist named John Mills. Now, I've known John for years. He's a viewer of Lunch Money Comics, but I've also bumped into him at many local comic shows here in New England. And John is a classically trained comic artist. He went to the Kubert School. He's worked on titles like Gen 13, Marvel sketch cards. He also does lots of commission pieces for other comic creators like Roy Thomas, who he knows really well. Well, he contacted me and he said something slightly different. Yes, he wanted the book, but not so much for himself. He wanted it as a legacy book to hand down to his kids. And I understand this. This pulled at my heartstrings, and he's a really cool guy. So I said, sure, John, I told him my plan and my thought process. I might hold on to both. But, if you want to look at it, we can definitely talk about it. He said he had a ton of stuff to trade, and he invited me over his house. So I went over there, and I picked a really great day for it because his town was having a town-wide yard sale, and he was selling a ton of his extra comic books. And it was a rainy day. He had a tent set up outside with his comic books out there. And guys, he had great books for $1 each. And honestly, that would have made a great video in its own right, just going through those comic boxes. I love going to yard sales. It was great. But he actually invited me into his home and showed me his studio, not only where he works, he showed me his drafting table. He showed me, some of his original work that he does. He also showed me some cool stuff hanging on the walls of his sort of nerd cave, work that he's done. He had stuff signed by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. He had original published art by comic artists he knows in the industry. He had original pieces that he got from some other artists. He had stuff that was signed. He even had his acceptance letter to the Kubert School. And guys, it was just a really cool, sort of man cave. For those of you that have a fun room, it's really cool to kind of share your room, but also see what other people are doing. And he had awesome stuff down there. He had, all of his collectibles on shelves. And again, he let me go through his original art, some of the stuff he sells at local shows. And he's such a talented guy. Not only is he just a great artist, he's a master of multiple different styles. So I went through some of his art books and I just loved everything he had. But the main reason I was there was to go through his comic book boxes. And he had tons of stuff he was willing to part with. The dollar books were outside, the good stuff was inside. And I went through and I found a ton of comic books I was very much interested in. But I ended up not trading anything that day for a couple of reasons. One, I didn't find enough stuff I wanted in those boxes, to really cover the cost of the book. And secondly, I really wanted to crack, clean, and press that book. At this time, it was still in the slab. I knew it needed work. He didn't care if it was slabbed or not. I wanted to trade him a nice copy. I was curious, how it would come out. And also, wait, what if there's something wrong with the new book? It comes back and it's got a green label or something. I wanted to wait till that was all resolved. So we sort of hit a pause button on the trade. Months went by. I did do that with both of the books. The older copy, once Jeff at Comic Spot cracked, cleaned, and pressed it, not only had it not been pressed, there were pages folded on the inside. Literally, someone got this book like in a basement, an old collection, and just sent it to CGC as is. It needed a lot of work. Jeff cleaned it up, and it looked way better than a 2.5. In the new book, unfortunately, it came back as a 6.0. I thought it was a 7. I'm not that disappointed. It's a great book, guys. I'm happy to finally have a nicer copy in my collection. But at this point, I was willing to trade that older copy to John. So I went back over to his house. We went through his comic book boxes again. I pulled out some more comics I was interested in, but still there was a trade disparity. I started looking at the original published art on his walls. He said that was even on the table. You know, the light bulb's going off over my head. You know, maybe I can get some comic books and some original art I can sell to recoup losses of, you know, trading this book. That kind of made sense to me. But then he showed me something really interesting. He showed me a commission piece he was working on, which was of a family that wanted him to do the entire family, like extended family, like, you know, uncles, aunts, cousins, grandparents, everyone as superheroes. And he showed me this work of art, and it was fantastic, guys. It was so good. And then the wheels really started turning in my head. And I wasn't really sure exactly what to do, but I had this stack of comics in front of me that I knew I could trade for about $500 worth. I had a piece of original art that I was very interested in. And then I saw this commission piece, and I said to John, I said, hey, I'm going to throw this out there. If this is asking too much, just tell me so. I will understand. Because I was about to ask him for something more precious than money or comic books, and that is time. He's a busy father like I am, and I was going to ask him to do a commission piece for me. So I said, all right, John, this is what I want to trade for this book. This stack of comic books, that most of which I hope I can sell, some of them I'd like to keep, this piece of original art, published art, and will you do a commission piece of my entire family, me, my wife, my son, and my daughter, as superheroes? I was worried he was going to say no, but John couldn't shake my hand fast enough. He shook my hand and said, I would love to do that for you. So that was the agreement we came to. I handed him his brand new giant-sized X-Men #1, and this is how we sealed the deal. All right, John, congratulations on your first giant-sized X-Men #1. I know it's going to a fantastic home in your family. I know your kids are excited about it. So, and the best part is, you know, I get some books out of it. I get some original art. But most importantly, I'm getting something from you, a commissioned art piece, and just really kind of finishes the journey of this book.
Absolutely.
From me to you, and hopefully I'll have something pretty cool to show for it at the end. So,
yeah, same.
Thanks, pal.
Thank you.
So that's how we left things. John got his new giant-sized X-Men #1, and I got a stack of comic books and some original published art. In regards to the commission piece, we'll be talking a lot more about that in a little bit. Obviously, that would take John time to work on. Not only that, a lot of discussion went into what this was actually going to depict. It's actually a pretty funny story. I'll tell that in a bit. But in regards to the comics and the original published art I got, my original intent was to resell all of this stuff. And I even told John right up front, I was trying to recoup the cost of that new giant-sized X-Men #1. But for those of you that know me, I'm terrible at selling things. And when I look at really cool stuff, man, do I want to keep it. So a lot of the stuff I'm about to show you, I'm not going to sell. I'm going to hold on to it. But let's first start with the comic books. So here you see the original art piece and the comic book it belongs in. I will talk a lot more about this in a second in detail, but let's first talk about these comic books. This really cool Captain America I'd never seen before. We had some early Ninja Turtles, always fun to pick up here in New England. Fantastic Four #55, great Silver Surfer cover. Here we have a first appearance of Tarantula. I like those first Spidey villain appearances, and he's a pretty cool one. We have this classic Doom Iron Man cover that everyone wants these days. First Gambit, I love Gambit. I will always pick up this book, and this is a very high-grade copy of it. First Century, yeah, great modern book. I've wanted it for a while. Here was my opportunity to trade for one. Some more Silver Age ASM, great Craven cover. We have first Hellboy in color, always an awesome book. This one's very cool. This is a Batman anniversary issue. Triple signed by George Perez, Rick Leonardi, and Bernie Wrightson. I've never owned a Bernie Wrightson signature, so awesome pickup right there. Great crypto cover. Everyone knows this one. And some underground comics, including Zap Comics. I've been collecting these recently. So yeah, those are the comic books I decided to pick up. I thought it was worth about $500. I should also mention that I brought my trade box of comics besides that GSX1. And John pulled out a few things that he actually really wanted, like First Carnage, First Spider-Woman, books I had extras of. That was also part of this deal. I thought it just kind of made ends meet and made everything more fair. So those are the comic books, guys. But now we need to talk about that original published art. And like I said, John had several pieces that he had picked up over the years. And, a lot of them were cool. There's a cool Superman one, for instance, but the one that spoke to me the most was one of the Hulk. So let me show you the comic book it comes out of first. It's this. This is the Rampaging Hulk, Volume 2, Number 1. It's from 1998. Now, the original Volume 1 of the Rampaging Hulk was actually a black and white magazine from the late 1970s. In 1998, they started this Volume 2 in a standard comic book size. And there are actually several stories in here. The first one, the pencils are by Rick Leonardi and the inks by Dan Green. So let me first show you the panel that this original art comes from. Here we go. So this is the page right here. So we see the Hulk, he's fighting somebody, a human. And who is he fighting? Bruce Banner. Yeah, especially for you Hulk fans out there, you know they do this a lot in comic books. They have him sort of fighting his different personalities, usually like in the theater of the mind, but in some cases because of magic or whatever, actually split into two different entities and fighting. But we have him fighting himself here. Very, very cool, all green. It looks fantastic. And guys, even as not like a gigantic Hulk fan, I can certainly appreciate something like that as a Marvel fan. Well, let's talk about the original published art, because here it is. This is the original page, number 26 of that comic book, and you see, it's not green, of course. You see the original pencils by Rick Leonardi, the inks by Dan Green of Hulk fighting Bruce Banner. How cool is that? Like I said, guys, the original intent was for me to sell it. The more I look at this, the more I like it, especially when I showed it to my friend Rick, who is a framer. He's framed some stuff for me. When I showed him this stuff, he's like, oh man, I could do amazing stuff. I could have this framed side by side with the original art. It'll be amazing. And as he described it, I was kind of like, all right, maybe I do want to hold on to this thing. I'm not sure. I think I will hold on to it. But hey, if you're a Hulk fan down there, let me know what you think of this. I'd love to hear your opinion. And what would you pay for this? I don't even know what these go for, guys. But I think I'm going to hold on to it for a little while. I think it's pretty awesome. First original published comic art. Happy to have it. So yeah, I got the comic books. I got the original published art. But that actually wasn't it. John threw in some other things, some surprises, just out of the kindness of his own heart. For instance, when we're going through his original art that he had in one of his portfolios, he had a lot of great stuff. Such a talented guy, but there's one piece of art that I was like, wow, that's awesome. It was this. This is, of course, Spider-Man 2099 Miguel O'Hara, a character I like very much. And I just said to him, hey, that's really, really cool. And John's like, oh, that's just a doodle. I was just messing around trying a new style. Just take it. I was like, are you serious? Like, yeah, just take it. So he just threw this in. He just threw it in, guys. How cool is that? So that was like a freebie out of the whole deal. But that wasn't all. John has several jobs. One of them, he works at a place that can do some really high quality printing. They were experimenting with a new printer, and they can print on vinyl. So here's a record, right, on this side. But John, to test it out, took one of his original compositions, or he actually made one, of the Black Panther and printed it on this vinyl. How cool is that? And I mentioned, that's awesome, and my son loves Black Panther. He's like, take it. So this is for my son, Jack. I told John, like, there could be something here, right? You could print a lot of, cool art on records. I think people would really eat it up and like it. So, hey, I got one of the first prototypes of it at least. So how neat is that? So that's all the stuff I got in trade, except that commission piece. So let's talk about it. Before John could get started, he needed a few things. Namely, what do we want to look like? What kind of superheroes? What would be our powers? What would be our costumes? Things like that. To answer that, I had to have a conversation with my family, see what they wanted. And that was a long discussion. We had a lot of opinions, especially from the kids, as you can imagine. And we had a lot of thoughts. One of them was the Fantastic Four. There's four of us. It made sense. But one of us would have had to be the Thing. Who would have got that short straw. And I love the Thing. Don't get me wrong. But one of the things we decided early on was we wanted it to look like us. John's such a good artist. You can clearly tell who he's drawing. It looks exactly like the person. So we didn't want like masks or anything like that. And, rocky skin with a big eyebrow. It wouldn't have really looked like me. I don't think it would have looked like me. So that was sort of how X-Men came up. We all love the X-Men, but no one could decide which X-Men to be. So ultimately, we decided on The Incredibles. Yeah, we all love those movies, and, those characters fit, our family roles quite a bit. Not comic book superheroes, but definitely really cool superheroes. Again, we love the movie. There's a picture of us in Disney World a couple of years ago in front of like a Incredibles display, and we love that picture. So it made sense, right? We thought The Incredibles would be perfect. But my kids had one more request, and it was sort of a deal breaker. My kids wanted our pet rabbit to be in the commission piece. Not just that, they wanted him shooting lasers out of his eyes like Jack, the baby in Incredibles. We all thought that was pretty funny, and we said, sure, yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, we decided on The Incredibles. We kind of knew what our composition would be, and then we all posed to help John. He needed a picture of us for reference. He's never seen my family before. So we posed like in our kitchen, in our living room, like goofballs. Sent that to John, and it's been about 2 months now, and I've been waiting for this commission piece. So there you go. That was the story of me trading that book. You saw the comics I got for it. You saw the original published art I got for it, but you haven't seen the commission piece yet. Neither have I, but I figured what better person to show it for the first time than the artist himself, John Mills. I mentioned I had a special guest showing up. John just arrived with his wife, Sherry. They're upstairs. We're going to bring them down now. He's going to unveil the art, not only to me, but to my entire family. We'll even film it and get our reaction and all that. So let's bring them down, guys. I can't wait to see how this turned out. All right, so you're going to do the unveiling of this for my family. Right. So we have my whole family right here. My wife is filming. Kids are here to see this. I got a preview of this. I haven't seen the final version of this.
All right, it's a two-parter though.
It's a two-parter.
So remember when I told you, we kind of had a little back and forth, and especially about the rabbit.
Yes.
So then when you told me about the rabbit,
oh boy,
and you'll probably explain a little bit further, and what the rabbit is called.
Yes, and look at that. Look how, so I did that?
Uh-huh.
Our rabbit's called Rorschach because he's black and white, looks like an ink blot. I told the kids it's on the ink block test. I was thinking more of the Watchmen, but yeah. So yes, and that was the only correction I had to do, that the rabbit looks like an ink blot. So what did you do?
All right, well, that'll be the second part.
Okay.
All right, so here's the first part.
Oh, wow.
There you go.
Hey, look at that. That is us as the Incredibles. That came out fantastic. And there you go. There's the rabbit. Nice with the spots. There's Rorschach.
Yeah.
What do you think, Sam? You look great.
I think it's amazing.
It is amazing. Wow, that came out amazing.
You like how you look, Jack?
You got his hair perfect. Wow, that is... It looks... The preview you gave me was great, but like in person, it's incredible. Especially with the ink work on it now. It's definitely made a huge difference. Wow, that is awesome. Okay, that's good enough, honestly.
And so, yep, per our little kind of back and forth text messaging.
Yep.
You told me about the rabbit.
Yeah.
All right, so you look at the shirt. You know about your rabbit.
Oh my gosh. It's Rory as Rorschach. With the hat and everything. Hey, I had no idea you were doing this. I got this shirt for my sister. Yeah. I was like, hey, it's thematic.
Look at the carrot.
Oh, he's got the carrot? Is that like a cigar kind of? Like, that is awesome. The kids are cracking up. That is amazing. That's awesome. Hey.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I did that in like once you said that on the text, I was like, oh, okay, I got to get this out of my head. And I was it took 5 minutes, just scribbling that down just to get it out because that's all I could think of is what's on your shirt.
Exactly.
As the rabbit.
Usagi Jimbo, eat your heart out. That's awesome. That is wicked cool. What an unexpected delight surprise. That is fantastic. Which one of you kids wants it in your room? That's going to be the argument there. So, wow, that is awesome. What do you think? Christmas card? We'll have to find a way to shrink this down for the Christmas card this year. So we are the Incredibles. We did have an argument over if we'd be the X-Men or the Fantastic Four. But none of us wanted to have orange Rocky skin. So otherwise it would have been FF. But there you go. And we do have a picture of us at Disney World in front of the Incredibles thing. So that's why we thought of it. So, wow.
Excellent. No problem.
That is gorgeous. That is amazing. Are you kidding me? I don't want to say I didn't know what to expect. I did. I know how good John is, but to say this exceeds my expectations, I think is shortchanging John. This is unbelievable. You guys, you couldn't see it. My wife and kids were over there. My wife was filming. They were trying to be quiet, but as soon as the camera was off, they absolutely love this. We're probably going to try to make it our Christmas card this year. And he just nailed it. I mean, he captured our likenesses exactly right, especially my kids. It looks just like them. He even got the rabbit. And this is a bonus. The fact I told him that the rabbit was named Rorschach, he couldn't get the image out of his head. He did this. And my daughter loves this, and she wants to put this in her room. That's exactly where this is going to go. And I don't think this is going to be in my room down here. This might be on the living room wall. It's that good. Unbelievable. Guys, honestly, let me know down in the comments what you think of the trade, what I got. But here's the thing. I was actually, at one point, worried I wasn't getting enough equity out of that book. Not just what the book was worth, but because it had sentimental value. Now that I've seen this, I think I shortchanged John. I think this is worth that book, straight up. The comics and the original art, I feel like I didn't even need that in the deal. I feel like I owe John a little bit more. This is unbelievable. I don't even want to know what he charges for something like this, what this would actually cost as a commission piece. But it can't be cheap, especially since it took him a time. I asked him for time. which is a lot. So let me know down in the comments if you like something like this of your own family, and what characters would you be. Listen, guys, I always sign off in these videos by saying, hunt in strange and unusual places. Something else I always say is, meet people in our hobby. We have so many fantastic people in our hobby, not only incredible talent, but just wonderful people. And it's just wonderful meeting John and his family. We have a lot in common, and it's really great to hit it off with people, and I consider him a friend. So that's the important part, and to have something like this, to replace a sentimental book, sure, but this is way more personal and sentimental and awesome, and to have it from him is really special. So let me know down in the comments what you think of it all, guys. And that's it. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all next time.